Al-Warith, the heir, who's a spiritual wisdom teacher, if you want, who inherits knowledge of time. And the last thing I want to mention about Etruscans and Tarches is they thought in very long times. They weren't interested in just today, tomorrow, and the next day. They thought in millennia. And they had a word for this called seculi, which they taught to the Romans. And seculi lasts for hundreds of years. They believe time goes in cycles, the Etruscans, hundreds and hundreds of years long. And so they were interested in mapping the long patterns of time. If you look at the Bible, that's exactly what the Jewish prophets are doing, Isaiah and so on. They're looking at what the next 1,000 years are going to hold and how we can get righteous and live in alignment with the divine intelligence so that it all works out, you know. That's what the Etruscans were trying to do for their people. And this word seculi came into the Roman language, and it was adopted by philosophers at the time of the Renaissance, and particularly an amazing chap called Vico, who was probably the cleverest Italian philosopher of the 17th century. And he said history comes in these seculi, and that each one gets a bit better. So we're now into a sort of an age of wisdom that's unfolding, and that's what he was arguing, where we understand all these mysteries more than, like, you know, our ancestors. And this was called a new seculi. Now, that was adopted into the idea of, well, what shall we call that new age that we're entering? Let's call it a secular age. And it became the root of the term secular, which meant it's been interpreted to mean no religion. If we're secular, like in France, the schools are secular, well, they don't have religion, so you can't teach what I'm talking about. No, that's not what it meant originally in the Etruscan and Latin. It meant the quintessence of all the religions. The age of the seculi, or the secular, is when all that wisdom is available for all the children, all the people. Targes didn't, like, stint on giving wisdom, and nor did Allah through Muhammad, or nor did any of the other true brotherhood of sages that we're talking about here. And so the secular age is the time when the wisdom of the Etruscans and Targes comes back out into the open, along with the wisdom of Muhammad and Allah, the wisdom of God and the runes and all the other traditions that are mentioned in the Tarot of the Gods. So, you know, that's another reason why I think the Etruscans should be studying more in schools all over the planet. And in India, which is very proud of it, has a secular constitution, but they don't realise it came from Targes and the Etruscan priests. Anyway, I hope that explains a few things. Excellent. So shall we stop there, or do you have any final questions? Or
no,
we won't do
I
another
loved
one.
it. It was great. But if you want, we can do one more.
No, I think we'll I've been fasting all day. I always do on a Sunday, so I'm starving.
Yeah.
But it's always nice to share thoughts, and I'll just finish with a reading from Fritjof Schuon, because I think he would also love this approach that I'm talking about. Dear old Fritjof. As a quality of the soul, faith is the stabilizing complement of the discerning and, as it were, explosive intelligence. Without this complement, intellectual activity, not pure intellection, can easily allow itself to be carried away by its own movement and become like a devouring fire. It loses its balance and ends either by consuming itself in an irresolvable restlessness, or simply by exhausting itself and becoming sclerotic. Faith implies all the static and gentle qualities, such as patience, gratitude, trust, generosity. It offers the mercurial intelligence a stabilizing element, and thus achieves, together with discernment, an equilibrium that is like an anticipation of sanctity. In Islam, the complementary terms blessing, or prayer, salah, and peace, or greeting, salam, are applied to this polarity at its highest level. As a little glimpse into Fritjof Schumann. So, that's kind of where I began my talk today, was talking about how I think you have to balance intellectual work with faith. I called it intellectual piety at the beginning of this talk. And like Schumann, I've tried to combine a life of scholarship and intellection with spiritual experience and surrender and I know nothing at all. I've just downloaded a few tales of the unexpected, shall we say, and that's only because and I recommend to viewers to try it. If you get your ego out of the way, the divine effulgence, who loves and created this world, wants us to understand these mysteries. There's nothing I'm saying here that isn't common human knowledge. It's the birthright of every Muslim, the birthright of every Italian, the birthright of every human being on the planet. This stuff. This is, this is from what my friend Mandy Khan calls the divine thought of peace that created the universe. So anyway, be at peace. Salam to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.